The gray whisper opening channel narration amid the noise of day and the silence of the dark night. Where the boundary between reality and imagination begins to fade, there lies gray whisper, opening a doorway into this earthly world. Hello, my friends. Welcome to your channel. Tonight, for a few moments, I would like to be a guest in your home, bringing you a mysterious tale from beyond the veil. If you choose to walk this path with us, your likes and comments are more than support. They help this space grow and thrive. And if you have not yet joined our gathering, consider subscribing and activating the notification bell so that we may always remain by your side. The secret of the fig trees in grandfather's garden. If you have not listened to part 1 and 2 of this story, I highly recommend doing so first, because many of the events and mysteries you are about to hear have their roots in what happened before. As you heard in part 1, I am Mostafa, and I am telling a story that I once heard from my grandfather, Mostafa, a story that would forever change not only his destiny, but also the future of me and my entire family. My grandfather told me about the difficult days of his youth, about poverty, about working for the village Khan, and about a fateful night when he threw his shovel at a mysterious wolf. A single throw that changed the course of his life forever and opened the path to the realm of the benevolent jinn. You heard how he saved the life of the king's son, how he healed the boy's injured leg, and how blessings began to enter his life. You heard how his fortunes grew, how he acquired lands, orchards, herds of cattle and sheep, and even houses of his own. And at the end of part 1, the king of the benevolent jinn entrusted my grandfather with a ring bearing the mark of their tribe, a symbol of the king's trust and the beginning of a new chapter in this extraordinary tale. And now, the time has come to hear the rest of the story. So join me as we continue my grandfather's tale in part 3 of The Secret of Grandfather's Fig Trees. 10. I went to the barn and took one of the jars. I placed it inside a sack. Then I walked to the water well and washed my face and hands. After that, I returned home, ate a simple breakfast, and set out toward the town. About 2 hours later, I arrived at the marketplace. I asked someone where I could find Farouk. They told me his shop was at the very end of the market, inside a narrow alley. I followed the directions. An old man was sitting behind a desk, while a young boy was dusting the shelves. I handed him the letter. The moment he unrolled the piece of leather and read the message, he stood up and treated me with great respect. Then he sent the boy out to bring tea. As soon as the boy left the shop, the old man turned to me and said, "Yesterday I was informed that you would come carrying an ancient jar of coins and that you would sell it to me. I prepared your payment yesterday. Just as I was instructed, I placed it in 2 travel bags. I handed him the sack containing the jar. He gave me the 2 bags. I opened them. They were filled with money. I closed them again. Before the boy returned, the old man advised me to leave. So I picked up the bags and headed back home. Before entering the house, I quietly went into the barn. I hid the bags beneath the hay. Then I went inside. Tullet greeted me and brought me some bread and food. I ate and rested for a while. A few hours later, I woke up again. The sky was slowly growing dark. I picked up my coat and left the house. A few minutes later, the 2 young men appeared. We exchanged greetings. Then they took my hands. A moment later, I was once again standing in that beautiful land. Together with the old man, I walked toward the king's palace. The entire road was decorated. A celebration was being held in the palace in honor of the king's son recovering. Everyone seemed happy. I greeted the king. He greeted me warmly in return. The young prince approached with a smile and greeted me as well. I returned his greeting and asked how he was feeling. His leg had completely healed, and he was walking comfortably. The king looked at me and said, "You saved my son's life twice. Once from the wolf, and once from being confined to his home." I looked at him in surprise. Confined to his home? His bone was merely displaced. And I know that you have the finest healers. The king smiled. Yes, that is true. But because my son was injured in your world, only a pure-hearted human could come here and heal him. After our conversation, I enjoyed the delicious food and sweet drinks that were served. I wished I could take some of them back for Tullet, who was expecting a child. The king smiled and gestured toward the old man. The old man left. A few minutes later, he returned and respectfully bowed before the king. After the meal, the king turned to me and asked, "Did you find Farouk? Did you give him the gold? Did you receive your 2 bags of money?" Yes, I replied. The king nodded. Tomorrow, go to a certain village. The landlord there wishes to sell his orchards and farmland. Buy them. 1 bag of money will be enough. Offer half of his asking price first. Then slowly increase your offer. Buy all of his fields, orchards, sheep, and cattle. The 2 friends who bring you here each night will be with you and help you. I thanked the king. Then I said goodbye to him and everyone else. The 2 young men accompanied me home. When we arrived, they disappeared. I entered the house. To my surprise, several large trays filled with food and drinks were sitting inside the room. Tullet smiled and said, "2 young men brought these. They said they were gifts for Master Mostafa. They said he healed their Lord's son, and these were sent as a token of gratitude." In my heart, I felt grateful for their kindness and generosity. I thanked God. And silently, in my mind, I thanked the king as well. Suddenly, his voice echoed inside my head. "We also thank you for your honesty and purity." I smiled. Then I sat beside Tullet, and once again enjoyed those delicious foods. After dinner, we went to sleep, hoping for a better tomorrow. 11. I woke up early the next morning. I went to the water well and washed my face and hands. I ate a piece of bread and drank some tea. Then I picked up my coat, stepped out of the house, and headed toward the stable. I took one of the sacks of money and walked toward the front gate. At that very moment, a voice echoed inside my mind. "Leave the village." I headed toward the edge of the village. Behind the hill near the village, the 2 supernatural young men were waiting for me. 3 horses stood beside them. After exchanging greetings, we mounted the horses and set off toward the other village. But those horses were not ordinary horses. They moved with incredible speed. Even at that speed, it did not feel as though I was riding a horse at all. After some time, we arrived at the village. We asked for directions to the Khan's house. On the way, we agreed that Arang would do the talking while Arshang and I would remain mostly silent. When we reached the Khan's house, Arang introduced himself as the son of one of the local Khans. He introduced Arshang and me as his brothers. Then he said, "We have heard that you are planning to travel abroad and that you wish to sell your lands, orchards, and livestock. The Khan replied, "That is correct. If the price is good enough, I will sell everything. I even own 2 houses in the city, and I will sell those as well." Arang began the negotiations by offering half of the money we had brought. The Khan bargained, and Arang gradually increased the offer. Once the Khan realized that we were serious buyers, he sent one of his servants to bring the village chief and several respected elders. When they arrived, the deal was completed. We purchased all of his lands, orchards, flocks of sheep, cattle, and even his 2 houses in the city. The village chief prepared the contracts. After everything was written down, the elders and the village chief signed as witnesses. The Khan signed as the seller, and I signed as the buyer. The Khan looked at Arang and Arshang and asked, "Why aren't you signing?" They replied, "We are giving our shares to our brother." The Khan did not care who the real buyer was. The only thing that mattered to him was the money. After the contracts were signed and sealed, he received his payment. Arang then entrusted the temporary care of the lands, orchards, and livestock to the village chief and the elders. It was agreed that the next day, Arang, Arshang, and I would go to the city to take possession of the houses. After everything was finished, we said goodbye to the Khan, the village chief, and the elders. Then we mounted our horses and returned to our village. There were still several hours left before sunset. Before parting ways, I arranged to meet Arang and Arshang again after dark. Then I returned home and waited for nightfall. After sunset, I put on my coat and left the house. I met my 2 supernatural friends. Together, we traveled once again to the land of the benevolent jinn. When we arrived at the palace, the king said to me, "Tomorrow, take possession of the houses. Since you purchased them with all their furnishings, you only need to receive the keys and inspect them. Then go to the village where you bought the lands. Hire several workers. Have them build a wall around the orchards. And have them construct a large house there. After hiring the workers, Arang will bring you back home. Arshang will remain there until the work is completed." Then the king handed me a ring set with a red gemstone. He said, "This is the symbol of our tribe and our people. Whenever you need us, simply place your hand upon the stone and call for us in your heart." I accepted the ring. Then I said goodbye to the king and his companions. After that, I returned home with the two young men. We ate dinner, and then we went to sleep. The Secret of the Fig Trees in 12. The next morning, Orang and Arshang were waiting for me at the entrance of the village. Together, we traveled toward the city. After taking possession of the houses and inspecting them, we locked the doors and set off for Bahadur Khan's village. The village headman was sitting in the tea house with several men, drinking tea and smoking hookah. We greeted them and sat down. After having some tea, we asked the headman to find several construction workers for us. He sent the tea house boy to bring Karbulai Hossein, the man responsible for most of the building work in the village. When Karbulai Hossein arrived, Arshang explained our plans for building a wall around the garden and constructing a large house. Then he said, "Do not worry about the cost." He handed him a bundle of money. Karbulai Hossein said he would gather his workers and begin construction the following day. He estimated that completing the house and the surrounding wall would take about 3 months. Arshang replied, "We need everything finished within 40 days at most. I will pay more. Hire additional workers. Bring them from nearby villages or wherever you can find them." Then he handed him another bundle of money. Karbulai Hossein agreed and left to gather workers and purchase building materials. Arshang went with him to help arrange everything. Orang and I said goodbye to the headman and the villagers and headed toward the garden. The garden had not been cared for properly and was in poor condition. I said to Orang, "This garden needs a great deal of work and attention." He smiled and replied, "Don't worry. By the time the house is finished, I will turn this garden into paradise. Just wait for me after sunset. We must visit the king and learn what comes next." I nodded. We spent some time walking through the garden. At one point, Orang drew a line around an area where, years later, the fig trees would stand. At that time, there were no trees there. He looked at the spot and said, "This place is good." I was curious to know why it was good, but I did not ask. I knew that if I was meant to know, he would tell me himself. And if he remained silent, it meant either I was not supposed to know yet, or the time had not come. Then he took my hand. A moment later, I found myself standing in a secluded place near the entrance of my own village. I said goodbye to Orang and headed home. During those days, I had another reason to be happy. Talat was pregnant. We were expecting our first child, your father. Your grandmother received special care from the Romani Jinn tribe during her pregnancy with your father and with our other children. Food and drinks were regularly sent to our home by the tribe. When I arrived home, Talat was resting inside. She stood up as soon as she saw me. "Are you all right?" I asked. I could tell she was frightened. "What happened?" She looked at me and said, "I don't know. Every task I try to do is already done. I want to prepare food, and it is already prepared. I want to wash dishes, and they are already clean. Today I went to the stable to milk the sheep, and I found the milk already collected in the containers. I'm frightened." At that moment, a voice spoke inside my mind. "Slowly tell your wife everything. Just make sure she promises not to tell anyone. If she agrees, one of our women will stay beside her, help with the household work, and take care of her." So I told her everything. About the cornfield, the wolf, the king's son, the punishment of the Khan, the blessings that had entered our lives, and the purchase of the gardens, lands, sheep, and cattle. I told her everything. Then I said, "No one must learn about this. Not even your own family." For all those years, she had been my loyal companion and closest friend. She never revealed the secret, not even to our children. Then I told her, "A woman will come to help you. I have asked her to enter through the door and behave like ordinary people so you won't be frightened. They worship God and are here only to help and protect us. Do not be afraid." Just then, someone knocked on the door. I opened it. A woman wearing a face veil entered and said, "I have come to help Talat. And yes, I heard everything you said. I will do exactly as you requested." She entered the house. In time, she and Talat became close friends. From that day on, I no longer worried about my wife. I knew she had the best possible care and protection. As evening approached, I picked up my coat and stepped outside. Orang and Arshang were already waiting for me. Together, we traveled to their land and entered the king's palace. I greeted the king. He returned my greeting and said, "Tonight, I must explain the task you will carry out tomorrow. Then he handed me a small bag and said, "Do not open this bag. Tomorrow morning, before sunrise, go to the river. Bathe there. While bathing, recite the words I am about to teach you." He then taught me several sacred phrases. Afterward, he continued, "When your bathing is finished, go to the garden with Orang and Arshang, and bring your shovel with you. The same shovel you threw at the wolf. There, Orang and Arshang will tell you what must be done." Then his expression grew serious. "All of this must be completed quickly. We do not have much time left." After a moment, he added, "Go home and rest tonight. Before sunrise, listen carefully to the voice you hear within your mind. Orang and Arshang will be waiting for you beside the river." After that, we said our farewells. I returned home with the two young men, and waited for whatever fate had prepared for the days ahead. Morning came. I walked to the well. I washed my face and hands. Then I returned home, ate breakfast, and headed toward the entrance of the village. Arang was waiting for me there with a horse. We exchanged greetings and rode toward the orchard. When we arrived, I was so surprised that I stood there with my mouth open. For such a large orchard, entire sections of the surrounding walls had already been completed. The soldiers were gone, and only Arshang and the workers were busy with their tasks. A few minutes later, Karbala Hossein and his workers arrived as well. Without paying any attention to how much work had already been completed, they simply continued with their own tasks. That was when I realized Arang had done whatever he needed to do during the night. But I still had no idea what he had done to keep all of them from being surprised by the enormous amount of progress. We worked until noon. Around midday, a pot of abgush that Arang had prepared was shared among our workers and Karbala Hossein's men. At least 30 people were working there. Yet the food had been cooked in a single pot that normally would have been enough for no more than 5 people. And still, all 30 workers ate until they were full. My God! What wonders you have created that so many of your servants know nothing about. After lunch, we continued working. By evening, Karbala Hossein and his workers left. But just as they had the day before, Arshang and the others continued their work. As darkness approached, a large group dressed in work clothes joined them. I understood that they were the king's soldiers, sent to continue the work throughout the night. Arang and I left them behind. We rode toward the entrance of the village. And from there, in the blink of an eye, we arrived once again in their beautiful realm. We went to the palace. The king, his son, and the queen were there. I greeted them. The king and the others returned my greeting. Then the king said, "Good. Tonight, the walls around the orchard will be completed, and a special gate will be installed. No one except you and us will be able to see that gate. Of course, the human workers will also install a gate for ordinary people to use. Arshang has already prepared that one as well. Tomorrow morning, enter the orchard through the gate that belongs to us. Let the others use the gate they have built for themselves. You and Arang will take care of the trees. Arshang and the others will begin building the house." I asked no questions. By then, I knew they had already thought of everything. During that time, I had learned to be patient and never to be overly curious about things that would be revealed when the time was right. After speaking, the king dismissed us. After saying our farewells, Arang and I walked toward the palace gates. Outside the palace, I took hold of his hand. A moment later, I found myself standing in front of my home. I said goodbye to Arang and went inside. I saw Tullet sitting with the lady who had come to help her. They were talking together. I was happy to see that Tullet had found a friend and companion from the unseen world. I greeted them. They returned my greeting. Dinner was quickly prepared. I ate my meal, drank some tea, and then went to bed, preparing myself for another day ahead. 12. Tonight's tale comes to an end here. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your thoughts, interpretations, and reflections are always welcome and help this path grow stronger. Until we meet again with another tale, between the noise of day and the silence of the dark night, may light guide your path. Headphone wishing you a peaceful night ahead. Leave the whispers to us. Good night.